Well, really, this is, we titled it The Mental Side of Bass Fishing, and that's really, when you got two guys that both know how to cast very well, they got every lure in the boat, they got the best equipment you can possibly put, which is every big tournament, and one guy's catching them all the time and one guy's not. Where's the difference? Where's the difference in that? How do you find out where that's going? And so I'm going to talk about the mental side of bass fishing. I've lived it, breathed it for 40 years of bass fishing. So I've seen the highs, I've seen the dead lows, and it's usually attributed, like you hear in every other seminar, confidence, mental strength, things like that. And so we're going to dive into that a little. Something I've never talked about. Rich actually brought up the topic, so I'm glad he brought it up, and we're going to get into it a little. Go to the first one. I'm going to talk about lures, and not to totally run on John's seminar back there, but the first thing I'm going to pick up is this little bait right here called a Senko. Okay? Right? Anybody not heard of a Senko? You heard of a Senko. Anybody not caught a fish on a Senko? Everyone's caught a fish on a Senko. Well, this is where the old history teachers coming in, is that I was with Yamamoto when they made this bait. It was around 98, 99. I call it turn of the century. It sort of sounds funny right now, but it was the turn of the century. They came out with this bait. And at that time, there was a bait that was killing them across the country. It's called a sluggo. A lot of you guys heard of a sluggo. It was just a big piece of plastic, heavy piece of plastic. And it was a twitch bait, sort of like a fluke, something like that. You twitched it, and it caught them everywhere. It was the hottest bait in the U.S. for a lot of years. So Gary Yamamoto wanted a bait that could compete with that. He wanted a bait that would fall in that sort of category. And they went through a lot of different baits. They went through a lot of different things. And they came up, basically the story I heard is they used a pen, a writing pen, and made this chunk of plastic, right? Put this salt in it so it sinks. Because a sluggo was, you'd work it through the water column, let it dart down and stuff like that. You didn't want it floating, you wanted it to sink. And they came out with a Senko. So I was one of the first guys that had one. Like, oh, cool. I caught a lot on a sluggo. I'm like, I'm going to go fish like a Senko. I'm going to fish a Senko like I did a sluggo. And I'd throw it out there and twitch, and let it drop and twitch it. I never caught a fish. I go, this is the dumbest bait anybody's ever come out. I mean, literally, that's what I thought. Dumbest thing I ever heard of, right? That was with nobody else telling you anything, I was like, that's dumb. You're not going to catch a fish on it, right? That was my mental execution of it. So what happens is I got a buddy that's fishing a tournament down on a lake in Apache Lake, and I'm up at Clear Lake in a Bassmaster event, and I had those things, and I'm like, I'm not going to throw them, they're stupid. And my buddy wins a tournament on one of our local lakes, and he goes, man, you know those Senko things? He goes, man, I killed them on that thing. I'm like, really? I think they're stupid. I can't catch a fish on them here at Clear Lake. He goes, well, you just, if you see them or they're there, you just throw it and just let it sink to the bottom. I'm like, what, just dead stick it? He goes, yeah, don't do anything with it. Don't twitch it. Don't try to work it like a fluke. I'm like, okay, whatever, and he had the big bag. So I had found a 6-pounder on a bed at Clear Lake, and I was going to start on it, but it was super spooky. It was hard to catch. It was going to be a rainy day. I couldn't really see it. I knew it was back in this hole of these tules, and I threw my tubes in there, and I threw my other baits in there, and I didn't catch it. And I go, well, I had that thing rigged on a Texas rig, and I just threw it out there, and I just let it sink, and I watched the line and it got down about 4 feet and just